Hey, welcome to a brand new episode of Straight Up Show Podcast. I am your host, Calvin, and it is Monday, and it is a fabulous Monday because guess what? We are bringing back Music Monday. We kind of tackled some hard subjects last season, but this season we are bringing back Music Monday. You all have said that you loved our Music Mondays. It's one of y'all's favorite segments on our show. So without further ado, we're going to bring it back today. And man, like there's some good music out there that I've been listening to. But I love bringing artists on our show that they have a different story and they're very creative. So without further ado, I'm going to bring a new artist today. She's kind of making her rounds around the globe. She is international. She and one person even said that this person has a gift in her ability to structure her own songwriting in a way that speaks directly to her fans. So she is somebody that I've heard her music. I fell in love with it. And as most of our guests that come on our show, that really they put their work in. This person has put the work in too. And I found her on Clubhouse out of all places, and she's made her rounds on there too. So without further ado, help me welcome today's guest, Mr. Geneva Lei. How you doing, man? Thank you for coming on our show today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Yes, man. And did I pronounced that right? I'll like to ask, make sure I got it right. Geneva Lei, right?
Yes,
Uh,
you said my name right.
I got it right. See, I'm doing good. All right.
Period.
So
Period.
yeah, so at Geneva, like I said, once again, thank you so much for coming on our Straight Up Show podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I always get excited to do interviews that are out of Canada. So I'm very, very honored to be here.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy? You're like our fourth Canadian guest. So like we love having Canadians on our show.
I feel like there's so much talent here in Canada. So hopefully there's gonna be more past four guests because I know a lot of talented people here in the city
Yes, man.
and in Canada itself now. So it's great here.
And as she just said, she is a R&B singer songwriter out of Canada. So, without further ado, just kind of tell us about who you are and where you're from. We know you're from Canada, but kind of break down like where exactly are you from?
So I'm from Toronto. Well, I say Toronto to make it easier for people who don't live here in Canada. But really, I'm from Mississauga, Ontario. So Mississauga is where Party Next Door is from. Who else is from Mississauga? I have to think it through, but yeah, Party Next Door is a great example of who's from this city. Um, yeah, I've been living here since I was 1 years old. I was born in the Philippines, and I really fell in love with music at the age of 6. My sister is my big sister who really introduced me to music, and that's how I fell in love with it. So now I'm here talking to you about it.
Yeah, and it's crazy because our love of music is kind of how we met each other. You know,
Yeah.
we met on Clubhouse. We met in the music room, and then I forgot what room we met in, but I think we've been like, I think it's crazy because we were friends on Clubhouse before I actually knew that you were doing music. So I'm not for sure how we met, but we met again recently in Clubhouse, and then I was like, oh, you know what? And you started playing your tracks, and I was like, hold on, let me go back and just see who this is. And I said, oh, we're already friends already. Oh, didn't know that.
Mhm.
But I think that our love of music kind of brought us together, and here we are. So, you're from Canada. How was that transition from like just like being like your love of music to actually going into music where you just like just where you just pushed into it? Did you go to school for it, or it just kind of fell in your lap?
It fell in my lap,
Yeah.
100%. Um, I was always the girl in elementary school or high school who was like the singer, right? And I feel like in a Filipino household, you just end up falling in love with music because they make you do karaoke. I was the kid that was like, "Oh my god, you should come sing a couple songs for us, sing for the aunts and the uncles and everything." So I guess it just happened from there, and then you know, I really fell in love with performing, which also added to the love of music. And I started performing in grade 7. And then just from then on, like I just tried to find opportunities around the city and in high school and then in college. And then it just sparked. The first time I came into a studio was because I was introduced to an artist named Zane Campbell. And he asked me to drop some vocals on his album. upcoming album, and I was like, okay, sure. I never recorded before, so we'll see how it goes. And as soon as I stepped in the booth, it just felt like it was for me. Like it's been waiting for me for so long. I felt a spark. As cliche as that sounds, like that's the only way that I can really explain it. So yeah,
Just kind of had that spark. And shout out to Zane Campbell. Shout
yeah.
out, give him a shout out.
Shout out.
Yeah, and so like you kind of just got that spark. You just kind of feel comfortable. I mean, so like Geneva, wow, like that's good to hear your story and that you fell in love with music. We're gonna have a little bit more with Geneva Lei on the other side of the break. Make sure you stay tuned. This is Straight Up Show Podcast, Music Monday.
I'm so used to people leaving your words, trying to believe these skies run so deep. Wish I could just delete them, say it's not you, it's them. But I know sometimes I'm reaching, be feeling my intuition. But warn me if you're leaving. But what if you really been doing this? Is it my good or my demons? What if you really out with the bitch while I'm sleeping? Then I gotta chill out, collect myself, respect myself, cause you really ain't mine. You told me I'm problematic, but is it really me? Cause you be touching me like you need me. Believe when it gets too deep, you take what you can get. So you took me in the process when you haven't even processed all of your past tenses. Keep me out your habits, tell her she can't have it, cause baby you did damage. Can't even call you selfish, cause our love is on the low.
Straight up, we know that all lives matter, but historical events have shown that there is an inverse power dynamic between the races in our country. To highlight this, we present our Black Lives Matter merchandise. Because let's be real, some of you don't seem to understand that this isn't the organization, but a message. That message: end inequality towards minorities in America. And just in case that's too complicated for you in English, we have the phrase translated into 10 different languages. Visit straightupshowpodcast.com for this and all our other merch. That's STR8 showpodcast.com. Shirts as low as $19.99.
All right, welcome back to the Straight Up Show Podcast. I am your host, Calvin. Today is our Music Monday episode. Y'all have been loving these. Y'all have loved the artists that we've been bringing on. And we have some unique artists that come on here. This is not just the run-the-gun artists that you see. These artists are different. And in my opinion, since I used to be a DJ and I used to work in radio and work in media, like I can see who has that push. They really hunger for talent. And today's guest, she is from Canada, originally born in the Philippines, and she has found that spark in music so much so that it caught not only my attention, but a room full of people on Clubhouse's attention as well. Her music has been that great. She has been featured in R&B Radar, Trending Rap, Soul Era Records, 1107. Just everywhere around the globe, and she's doing phenomenal things. So once again, thank you so much to my guest today, Geneva Lei. Thank you so much for coming on the Straight Up Show Podcast.
Thank you again. Can never say too many thank yous.
Yes, ma'am. And so you started at a young age. You started performing at small talent shows in elementary, high school, and around the city. Like, you said that your family's love of, and I have Filipino friends that they're from the Philippines, and I watch them do karaoke all the time. Like, I won't ever do it because I can't sing. So, but that was part of your spark to kind of get your feet wet into music, correct?
Yeah. Honestly, karaoke was like probably the introduction to me performing in front of people in the first place. Obviously, it was a bit easier to perform for my family members, and then my mom told me that there was a talent show at our local YMCA. That was the first show that I can actually like really remember at the top of my head. And I guess from that point on, like, I was just addicted to performing, and I still am. Still am tired, but I still am like loving performing and like, meeting new crowds and connecting with new crowds that haven't seen me yet. And it's such a special moment for times like that.
Now, for those who don't know your music, um, can you just describe your style of music? What's your music more like? Is it you say R&B and so, but describe your music to the people that don't know who you are.
It's more like contemporary R&B. A good example, and the person that I really base my sound off of is Kaylani Janaiko, Summer Walker. Like the new R&B people who are taking over the game right now and taking care of the game. Um, and it's a very I say I mix my sounds with some soul, some trap soul, eh, and like like I try to bring some kind of classic vibes to it too, like the old R&B sounds. But yeah, lately like we've been trying to do more like trap and R&B and like kind of just give a cool Toronto sound, Toronto vibe to my music.
And what's the Toronto style? What's the Toronto vibe? Like,
Oh my
because
god.
I've never been to Canada, and like y'all do come up with some phenomenal music. You got like Justin Bieber, and you got Drake, but you got all these like these. But if you think about it, Drake and Justin Bieber, their music has been transcending all over the world. So, like, what is this thing about Toronto that people just fall in love with? Because y'all look like y'all have the coolest like country ever.
I think I was actually talking about it with like my other producing friends the other day, and it's just like Toronto does have a specific sound, and you just know they're from Toronto. And just as like in another example is when someone's from Vancouver, which is like the other end of Canada, and they have a little bit more like happy bouncy music. But here in Toronto, we're very moody, very dark. What's a good example? Marvin's Room by Drake. That that itself is a good example of the type of vibes and like moods that we bring from here in Toronto. I think someone said something about the fact that like majority of the year we're in like snow. I think that's what someone said to me, which is pretty funny. So
Oh, is that not true or what?
I think, to be honest, yeah, I think it is because when the cold comes, a lot of people are more inside. We don't get to
Mm.
go outside. We don't get to get no sun or anything. So I think that's a good factor of the type of music that we make here. Because sometimes I'm in the studio listening to my music and I'm like, damn, am I this sad? I can't be this sad. Like it just
Mhm.
reflects into like the lyrics that I write and like the beats that I decide to like choose and like the vibes that me and my producer decide to like create. So
And let's kind of talk about your style of music and kind of what's your music about? Is it more about love and sadness, or does somebody break your heart, or is it more about inspirational? What's your style? Like, what do you go for when you go in a booth or you write a song? Like, what are your songs about?
my real life. Um I'm not really good at talking about my emotions and um I'm working on it. I'm working on trying to be as transparent and as vocal as I am with my emotions, but music is the only way that I can really like vent about my life and about my heartbreaks and whatever I'm going through, whatever I decide I'm ready to tell the world about, I write about it. So really my music is just my real life in music form.
And like, how when your parents started hearing your music, or when you first kind of like got into like R&B style of music, and like,
Mhm.
were your family or your friends, were they kind of receptive at first, or
I feel like it's at first when someone starts something new, it's really hard to jump on the, oh, you're gonna be so great. Obviously, I had like my family was very much on board with me, and they're just like, like this was gonna happen to you regardless of like you decide to do it 10 years later or not. Like it was gonna be for you. Like that's what my family believed. But I did have a couple friends who weren't on board with it, and like I had a lot of people that I'm no longer friends with that doubted me from the beginning. So I think it just comes with the thought of like starting something new and like people not really understanding why you're doing what you're doing.
I understand that, yeah, because some people they'll love the benefits afterwards, though. They don't want to be there like when you're going through the struggle, but like when you look at Geneva now, like now she's like blowing up, you know?
Yeah. I had a couple like messages like that already. Just
Hmm.
a few from people like I used to go to school with, but what can you do?
You just you gotta brush them off.
You know what I'm saying? Just
Just
like
brush them off. Like just
deal with it with grace and just be like, thank you so much for the support. I really appreciate it. And, just move on with your life and just be like, okay, well,
just let my
it,
haters be my motivators.
per. And
Yeah.
also, like, just leave them where they were, where they wanted to be at in your life.
Mm.
Just leave them. Say goodbye and peace, like, like that's
Chuck
it.
off the deuces. Bye bye. Yeah, that's how you gotta do it though. Like, so let me ask you this, okay? So, like, I have I have like one song out that I did because a girl broke my heart. So I was really started putting like, but after that, and I've never done music ever again.
Okay.
But I want to know as an artist yourself, because I play the music, I don't write the music. I want to know when it comes to when you get into the booth and or before you start writing a new song, right?
Mm.
Do you start with beats first, or then you do writing, or is it writing then beats first?
So it all really just depends on what I'm writing about and what mood I'm in, right? Um, the way that I'm feeling in the moment, like it transcribes into what I decide to do that day. Um, so what's a good example? Problematic. Problematic actually ended up being a poem first. And I was just writing out my feelings because I was really going through it because some man did not know what he wanted with me. So I was just like, let me just type down on my notes. And, eventually I grabbed my guitar and I found some chords and I was like, okay, let me try writing on top of it. And then boom, I ended up writing Problematic and then got some post productions from my friend Paul Tongs. Shout out to him. He's also a big part of my music career. Um, and then there's other times where people send me beats and I'll write on top of the beat. And then there's just times where we work in the studio and just session it out. We'll have like session players or, my producers, PK, Deadin and Ray, and Jola, like we will build a beat on the spot. So
Okay, yeah, that's kind of so you're kind of like going back and forth to both. Of them. I like that. Okay,
yeah.
I don't know how that works. I don't know how that kind of culminates all together. I'm like I've always been fascinated. How does that work with y'all
Mhm.
when y'all do the music? But I mean, since you started this music business, like what's some like I guess highs and lows? Like what's something that's kind of benefited you from doing the music? And what's kind of like the struggle that you have or you're having doing your music?
So the struggles that I do have is like imposter syndrome. I feel like every artist goes through it. Every artist that I've talked to, they're just like it's a thing, like it's a real thing. And imposter syndrome sucks on the worst days because it's really just like, am I not working hard enough? Why am I not seeing the results that I want to see and everything? But then, I kind of have to stop myself and I look back from 3 years ago when I decided to do this like for real, and it's just like I've accomplished the things that 19-year-old me would have been thinking that, oh my god, she's so cool. So it's really just the imposter syndrome means me and it fight all the time. It got hands, real bad hands. But my highs, the things that seeing my music, you know affect people in a way that in a positive way, and seeing the ideas that me and my team, you know we brainstorm together, and just seeing it become a reality, and seeing people wanting to continue to listen to me and see what else I can do, and they have a lot of hope for me, like that's the best part of this whole music thing, is that regardless of the struggles, what you end up doing for the world, like you're doing something good for the world. Being an artist isn't just for you, it's for everybody. And um, the people who support me are the best part of this whole thing.
And that's kind of how I look at like doing like media or like
Mhm.
period because like I started off doing media because I was a kid that nobody would like listen to, you know what I mean? But once you get this microphone or something, you broadcast it, they gotta listen anyway. And I think that an artist like you know, because you are of Asian descent and you're doing so, it's like, you know, you can be impressionable to little girls like who would look up to you that can do music. So I think that like if you or I to die today or tomorrow, like our music or our work, our body of work will always live on. So it's like I definitely get what you're saying about that. That's so inspiration. So we're gonna have more with Geneva Lei on the other side of the break. This is the Music Monday featuring Geneva Lei. Make sure you stay tuned. Straight Up Show podcast.
I got options, I won't stop them for you. So you better go and do what you do. How does it feel for me to pull you on you? We had no deal, so I got my other dudes, yeah. I won't apologize if I hurt your feelings. You wanna come back even when you know I'm hurting. I could've been selfish and I could've been shady, cause your friend was in my DM telling me you ain't the homie. Don't want no mixed signals. Don't want no mixed signals. Be a man and man up. Be a man and man up. Take responsibility because I'm fucking fed up. Don't want no mixed signals. Don't want no mixed signals.
I think straight up means to be able to speak in a way that is straight up, to be honest, and to speak your truth.
Raw, uncut, you know what I mean? It's blunt, you know, straight to the point. This what it is.
It's just a place to be open and honest, and that's what I appreciate most about it. And it provides a place for community members to come together and just be straight up with each other about things that are going on in the world, because it affects all of us.
Unfiltered, raw, with all the cursing that Calvin does.
Straight up is just being real, telling it like it is, you know, being you.
Being solid, being who you are, no matter what it is, no matter what situation you're faced with, right? This is who you are. It really speaks to me, saying it is what it is and it ain't what it ain't, straight up.
All right, welcome back to the Straight Up Show podcast. I am your host, Calvin. This is the Music Monday, and we have the lovely Geneva Lei, all the way from how you pronounce it?
Mississauga.
Mississauga, Ontario, Canada, right? Okay.
Yes.
All right, got it right. Whew. Man, like, look, you know how Americans are. If it's not American, we don't care. You know.
I'm pretty sure Barack Obama was just like Mississauga one time. He was doing something, but he said it that way. We're like, what?
It's like Mississauga. Give us a shout out. One of my goals is to go to Toronto. I really want to go to Toronto. I want to go to a Raptors game because like y'all's basketball games be hype. I'm like, dang, just for one basketball team. Like, okay, never mind. I see.
It's our only Canadian team. Like, you know, we have people from Vancouver flying in to watch them. So it's just we have to go hard for the only Canadian team in the NBA. You know what I mean? It's not like hockey.
Yeah,
like hockey, right? So
and you got championship too. So I mean, you can't. You know what I mean? So yeah, but no, the lovely Geneva Lei, she is here on our Straight Up Show podcast. Music Monday. Y'all, as you can listen, you've heard her music. She can sing. She has phenomenal talent, and she has come on our show. So once again, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you a million times.
Yes, ma'am. And so, you know, you got some great music. Our fans have been listening to your music on this episode so far. So let me ask you a question. So you started this 3 years ago, and it's 2022, kind of towards the end of the year. So this kind of, you started around COVID, right? Like, was that an inspiration to kind of take it serious then? Like when you were like kind of at home and kind of had no other choice but to like write, or was it going to happen no matter what?
Okay. So I started just a little bit before COVID happened, right? I wasn't the best, to be honest, and I already knew deep down my soul that I wasn't the best. And I was trying to make these big strides, trying to, you know, accomplish things that like people down the road were like maybe 3 to 5 years already in trying to do. And I was trying to do that in my first year of music. And me deep down, no matter how badly I want to do and like go for those long strides and be a big dreamer, I knew I wasn't in the position to do those. So, you know, I feel like I was always on the go before COVID happened, and I feel like COVID really helped me stop and I like really reflect on what I want to do with music and who I want to be and what story do I want to tell and what do I want these people to know about me and why am I different from everybody else? And I felt like COVID really helped me with developing my artistry. If anything, it was a blessing in disguise. It's a very sad time, but also a very progressive and productive time for me and my branding.
I feel you on that one. Like, I think they kind of impacted all of us. Like, I ask all the artists, like, how's this COVID pandemic impact your music? And some people it went on the downfall, but you yourself, it made you hone into your skills and kind of work harder. So that's kind of great to hear. Um, Now that COVID's over with, you've been basically popping lately. You've been making impacts on people in Clubhouse and all
Right.
this, which is kind of one of the reasons all of us got on Clubhouse because of the pandemic. Uh, but now that you have kind of blossomed and you're growing bigger and you're getting more popular now, um, what kind of projects are you working on now, and that people could be really interested in?
Well, I do have a single coming out. Or sorry, my single is already out. So hopefully at this time you guys hear the podcast. The single is already out and it's called Sober. I'm super excited because working in music and working with your friends, it just correlates. Like it just makes sense and it really shows in the project that you make or like the song that you make. And we had so much fun making this single. Um I had a great time. I love this single with my whole heart because I feel like every song that I made, it just made me open up just a little bit more. And like I've been a bit more vocal with my feelings in real life, not just in my music. So um yeah, it's like my little therapy song. But I also have in maybe like a little EP coming next year or something like that. But we'll see.
Oh, hey, you keep putting that work in. That's good. Hey, if you bring an EP, make sure you come back so we can listen to it on the show. We'd love to have it out there. So you do music, you do R&B, soul. Like, who are some of your biggest influences in doing music?
Growing up, I was a very big Jasmine Sullivan fan.
That's my baby girl.
Let me I'm not scared of lions, tigers, and bears. What?
That's my
Oh
crush.
my god, I love
Yeah.
her so much, and like seeing her become amazing and just getting the flowers that she's been deserving just makes me so proud of her. Like I feel like we're friends. You know what I mean? That's how long like I've been listening to her, and then also like growing up, like who else is another big one? Beyonce was a really big one too. Like the fierceness that she brings to her music and like just her personality. Like she's also a really big part. But like now, my biggest inspirations, like I said, was Kehlani, Janae Aiko, and Summer Walker. Like, you know, Kehlani is a very big inspiration of mine. I've been in love with her since high school. And I just remember listening to her for the first time and I was like, who is this? Who is this person? You know what I mean? And she sorry. And they just been my biggest inspiration when it comes to songwriting. Janae Aiko is a really big one too. What they do is that they're just so honest in their songwriting, and that's what I want to be. I want to be genuine, and I really want to take the emotions that I have internally and really put it on pen and paper and musically and sonically. Like I want people to feel what I'm saying.
Now, you grew up in a Filipino household, right?
Yeah.
And do you speak the language as well?
I speak like a little bit. Like I speak Taglish.
Okay. Have you ever thought about doing like a crossover and maybe learning like doing like a Filipino song and just say, hey, just kind of going back into it? Have you thought about that?
I was thinking about it. I feel like I'm not on the stage yet, not yet. Like I want to solidify what I'm doing right now. But I know that I'm going to want to do it just because I feel like it's really important to represent who I am, my background, where I came from, and everything. And like it plays a really big part in what I decide to do. So
I should have asked you this earlier, but have you been to the States before?
I have. I actually went to LA in April, and I actually just came back from New York. But yeah, like my grandparents live there, so I'm like there like pretty much. I've been to
Mm.
Florida and stuff, so
Oh, so you say you've been here. Okay, okay. So, for those who do not know you or they're listening right now that have heard this phenomenal episode about this wonderful soulful singer all the way in Canada, um, the trick question is why should people listen to your music?
I feel like people should listen to my music because I just want people to know that whatever they're going through, they're not just like going through it alone. And, like the people that I listen to musically, they make me feel like, it's like a shoulder to lean on. And that's what I want to be to my listeners and to the potential fans that I do have. And like, I just want people to feel the honesty and the genuine person that like is making the music. And yeah, like I just want people to know that like the experiences that they feel, I feel them too, and I sympathize and I empathize with it and everything. It's just, yeah, just let's relate together,
Yeah. Kind of being like the voice of the voiceless kind of thing, right?
Yes, basically just filling in the words that other people can't say. Just like me, I can't be saying those words too, but I sing it in my songs. So
Hey, I like it. I like it. So, all right. So that is what she has to tell us today. Before we go, how can people find you on social media, listen to your music, download your music, support the new single? How can people find you on social media?
my name is Geneva Lei on all platforms. GENEVA LEI. On TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Spotify, anywhere. That is my handle. So
All right. And we'll make sure we have her on the ticker below if you're watching this on TV. And then we'll have it in the show description if you're listening. I got one last question. Okay. So when you perform live, like what is the feeling like when you perform live? I want to know, like, what's the feeling like performing live?
exhilarating. It's nerve-wracking before you get on stage. However, once you get on stage, you just feel invincible. When I perform with a wonderful band. My band is, shout out to Nico, Daniel, and Placey. Like they're a great band and they really support me. And performing with a wonderful band and just like knowing that you guys are gonna sound great, it just feels great. And like the audience, they just connect so well to live music. So it's just great.
All right. Well, with that being said, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out to come on our show. Give us some of your phenomenal music. I've definitely enjoyed you, and I want to extend an invitation for you to come back on our show.
Of course, I'm gonna come back. Once my EP is done, 100%.
All right, there you have it. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, Geneva Lei, thank you so much for coming on the Straight Up Show podcast, Music Monday. Y'all, make sure you join the conversation. That's the end of our show. Go to our website at www.straightupshowpodcast318, www.str8upshowpodcast.com. You can see all our previous Music Monday artists and featuring today's artist, Geneva Lei, and hear her phenomenal music as well. But until then, there's only one rule to our show. You gotta be
straight up.
And before I go, Geneva, you're gonna give us a little something before you leave, right?
Yes, this is my newest single, Sober. Please listen it to all platforms. And yeah.
All right. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Geneva Lei. Take it away.
Honest off the liquor, say it when you're sober. Only see me clear when your vision's blurry. When you hear, leave so quick, yours. Leave with your sanity. Your buzz is the only way you love me. I fall for it every time. The wine is where it starts. The only thing that ever warms your cold heart. Got you saying that you love me 1,000,001 times. I know it's wrong, but it just feels so right. We love me in the morning when you're sober. We love me in the morning when you're sober. Don't wake me up until the time is over. We love me, we love me. Oh, someone take your cell away, 'cause you hitting up my phone. Same gentleman, yeah, the odds reach the tone. I keep letting you in, let you get it out your system, let you ruin the life I live. But you're my sin, yeah, you're the only thing that holds me back. I'll break his heart just in case you change your mind. As long as you, baby, as long as you